This was probably one of the better Pirates of the Caribbean movies since the first film, but it was also one which got me the most frustrated, or maybe even a bit angry to be honest, because I can actually see potential in this film. With a little bit of tweaks and modification, I think it could have been it could have been as good, if not even better, than the first film itself, because there was really some potential with the overarching storyline there, which they didn't kind of focus on. But okay, let me explain. Since the first film, the Pirates of the Caribbean movie kind of lost its variation in tone quite a bit, which you need for a good movie. You know, you can't just be slapstick comedy, just ridiculous gag after gag after gag, just punchline after punchline, and just people doing silly stuff all the way through the movie. It kind of, it can be funny from time to time, but after a while, it gets really old and predictable. So, for a good film, you need to both have moments of comedy, which Pirates have plenty of, but you also need some moment of tension, of danger, feeling like, oh, the stakes are pretty high now, the characters are really in big trouble, and also heartfelt moments, which you kind of like, oh, that's a touching moment, some emotion between the characters, and you kind of feel sorry for some of them, and quite sad for some of them even, which the Pirates just doesn't have any of those variation anymore. I think as a comparison, I can compare this movie to Guardians of the Galaxy Part 2, which is also owned by Disney, strangely. But these two films are kind of similar in certain ways, in that it kind of relies on its main character kind of behaving ridiculously and just acting silly in the middle of really dangerous and tense moments. Like spoilers here if you haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy 2, but for example, when they were being chased down by a massive army of because Rocket Raccoon stole their batteries or whatever, they were still kind of bickering back and forth and doing silly things, which of course in real life absolutely nobody would behave like that. But it was kind of just playing it off as comedy, which is similar to the Pirates franchise. You always have Jack Sparrow just acting completely ridiculous and doing silly stuff, saying silly things in the middle of the most tense and dangerous situations. But the difference is the Guardians of the Galaxy Part 2, they knew when to pull the comedy back. When later on in the movie, when the stakes kind of gets higher and kind of during the emotional bits, they knew that, okay, we shouldn't ruin these moments with just slapstick comedy. Like when he was having conversations with his celestial dad about how he killed his mother, those were pretty some serious stuff, and they would just let it be full on serious. He was clearly angry. Or when at the end, another spoiler, when Yondu dies, he was some heartfelt moments speaking about his father, how Yondu was actually the father he has always wanted all along. Even though all this time he was searching for his real father, Yondu was always there for him, and he kind of overlooked it. Now, if that was a pirate movie, during his touching speech about Yondu, maybe like Rocket Raccoon would interrupt him with something completely silly and ridiculous, or maybe another crew member would just bring up some stupid joke, or just do something silly, which would ruin the moment completely. Or during the kind of some more intense fight scenes, they would just kind of, towards the end, the earlier fight scenes, they would still be joking around, but towards the end, when it was like, okay, the stakes are getting higher now, the whole universe could be destroyed, they weren't playing no more. They were quite serious and like, okay, we're going to do it. We're going to try and save the universe, and people are dying, and, you can see the look of worry on each of the main characters' faces, which in the Pirates of the Caribbean, I never got that feeling at all for the entire movie or the entire franchise, to be honest, since the first one. An example of a mechanic that they use so often and is very overused in the Pirate franchise is, I'm not sure how to call it, but maybe we'll just call it dramatic interruption or something. Basically, anytime there's an intense moment or something dramatic's about to happen, or maybe a heartfelt moment, the music would start to build up, and then maybe the bad guy would be giving his tyrannical speeches, and then suddenly the music would cut off, and then someone would just do something silly or say something completely ridiculous and stupid. Usually maybe Jack Sparrow and one of the other characters, it's like, okay, we're going to have a dramatic moment now. The bad guy is starting to speak about how he's going to kill everyone, how he's going to destroy all the ships, and then Jack Sparrow just shout spaghetti wolf or whatever, or whatever he usually shouts, and it's just kind of, once or twice maybe it can work, but when you do it every single time, you kind of, there's no suspense anymore. Now every time something dramatic's about to happen, you can see it coming a mile away, and now you're just like, okay, I'm not even invested in this speech or in this heartfelt moment, because I know that in any second some punchline's gonna crop up. And of course, it does exactly as you expected and just ruins the moment completely. And in some moments, it got so bad that they even did it twice in the same scene. For example, the scene when Barbossa was releasing the Black Pearl back into the sea. Um, okay, at first they threw the Black Pearl out onto the rock, right? And it was growing and the music was building. Okay, Black Pearl is coming back. And then suddenly the music stops and the Jack Sparrow is like, oh, it's shrunk. It kind of only expanded to about 2 meters long or something like that. And then, of course, Barbossa comes along and throw in the water. It's like, oh, you stupid Jack Sparrow. It just needed some water. And, of course, the music builds again. And then the Black Pearl is coming up. And then suddenly, the music cut off again. And Barbossa just points the gun jams the guns in pirate Jack Sparrow's face and go, there can only be one captain. Which kind of... that was actually a wasted opportunity and a wasted moment completely. It could have been a really great, touching and dramatic moment when the whole gang is back together again. After the whole of the first 4 films, since the day one we saw the Black Pearl being in Barbossa's hand and then it changes hands so many times and constantly Jack Sparrow just searching, trying to get his Black Pearl back until finally he got it back in the 4th film, I think, and it was still in kind of miniaturized form. So finally, in the 5th film, they got it. He's able to bring Black Pearl back to life, and it should have been like a really emotional moment for him. Maybe they could have gave Johnny Depp to, okay, just be serious for this one scene, please. Maybe have a little tear, tear up a bit, just really be completely content and happy with the moment. And maybe Barbossa as well, because it was his ship as well, so they can have both the men look at each other and it's like, yeah, this is like old times, let's just sail for, turn back the clock and just bring back our glory day, just sail one more time for one last adventure. But of course, no, they just have to waste a moment for some stupid, silly slapstick punchline or whatever. That just, it's not worth it at all. Okay, now I'm going to get more specific on the different parts of the story which I saw potential and which part I thought maybe with a bit of tweaking, this movie could have been so much better. Which obviously, if you haven't seen this movie and don't want to know the spoilers, maybe you should don't watch anymore. But there was spoilers in the title already, so if you're watching this, then you probably expect to get spoilers already. But okay, anyway, the first thing is what I thought they were setting up, which was like kind of a redemption story, because in the first half an hour of the movie, they were setting up like Jack Sparrow as being like a washed up. Basically, he was just drunk, getting up to no good, just completely lost all his charm and his kind of abilities and lost his ways completely. So I thought they were going to set that up in the first half, and then as the movie went along, Jack Sparrow slowly realized, like, man, I got to get my act together, kind of stop drinking, and then kind of, turn back the clock, slowly becoming more heroic and more heroic, and just finally by the end of the movie, he would have reverted back to the guy he was in the first movie, or at least we saw glimpses of him in this movie, even in flashback, when he was defeating Barbossa for the first time. Now that's the Jack Sparrow kind of that we all fell in love with, not this complete just slapstick comedy, surviving through sheer dumb luck kind of Jack Sparrow, which is kind of quite sad, really, which I thought it would have been like a really great story arc to follow, because it would actually parallel so well with real life, with the way Johnny Depp's career has gone a bit lately, kind of like his star has fallen a bit, and also parallel with the franchise itself, because the Pirates of the Caribbean, since the first movie, has kind of been going down and down, and this could have been like a comeback story which would parallel reality perfectly, and I think it would have been great. Another part which I thought they could have done much better is the relationship between Barbossa and his daughter. I thought they should have gotten Barbossa and his daughter to meet each other much earlier in the movie, maybe even towards the beginning, so that they would have time to develop their relationship without actually knowing yet that they were father and daughter. So at the beginning, Barbossa would be like, oh, this annoying kid, just smart ass or whatever, and the girl would be like, oh, you're like a stupid unhonorable pirate, not like my honorable dad and man of science. My dad is like, a clever, upstanding citizen or whatever. And then as the film go on, you have different moments that kind of get Barbossa to start kind of liking the girl a bit, and the girl kind of like, oh, maybe Barbossa is in a way does have honor, he's a bad guy, but he does have honor in his own kind of way. He will, when time comes to fight and have to stand up, he'll be like brave about it. And he was actually quite cunning in a lot of ways, have many clever plans that you've seen throughout different films. And the way they did it in the film, they kind of just, it was so rushed. Just like Jeffrey Rush. Oh, that's a bad pun. See, that's I'm getting like Pirates of the Caribbean are rubbing off on me. You know, I'm starting to do bad slapstick comedy with just stupid puns. But anyway, because I thought, you know, in the movie they kind of met each other, and within 30 seconds Jeffrey Rush was like, oh, I'm completely in love with her, ready to sacrifice everything for her, and she was like, oh, Dad, I love you so much, you know, you're everything to me, which kind of, it was just too fast. You know, do you need this kind of thing to develop a bit? And I also would have loved it if they kind of start to like each other before knowing that they were father and daughter, so you can see that they do kind of, you know, have chemistry together, and get along without actually being forced to love each other because they know that, you know, they're father and daughter. So that would have been so much better. Also, the way they did in the movie kind of leads to the sacrifice of Barbossa being kind of less significant and less emotional, because everything was so rushed through. You know, I mean, within the last 15 minutes of the movie, so many things happened. Like Barbossa found out the girl was her daughter, and the girl found out Jeffrey Rush was her father, and almost instantly he just sacrificed himself to save the girl. So I mean, the weight of that moment was lessened because there wasn't a long build up throughout the whole movie where you see them, they're beginning to like each other, and they're like, they actually, you know, really get along, and then they finally found out they were father and daughter, and then they developed that relation a bit more, and they're like, okay, maybe, you know, after this we should go and learn more about each other, maybe, you know, get to know each other a bit more. And then sadly, through the sacrifice, they weren't able to do that. But at the way they did in the movie, everything just felt so rushed. But still, the death was quite sad, because to be honest, I think Barbossa at this point is actually the best character in the franchise, because I think he has the right balance, the perfect balance between being serious when he needs to be, and just being doing some of his witty kind of, some of the things he says kind of funny in a twisted kind of way, which is a perfect balance between being serious and being funny and just being ridiculous, unlike Captain Jack Sparrow, which is full-on slapstick comedy 99.99% of the time. In fact, I think it's 100%, to be honest. Which brings me perfectly to another point which I think they would have to address if they're going to do a sixth movie, which actually I hope they will. But to be honest, I think it's a bit too late anyway, because the story in the fifth one was actually perfect for a redemption story and a comeback story for both Depp himself and the franchise itself, which is the character of Jack Sparrow. In the first movie, the reason we fell in love with Jack Sparrow was not because he was going around doing slapstick comedy all the time, but it was because underneath it all, he was actually a very capable, cunning, and smart, legendary pirate. You know, I mean, it was almost as if all this like talk, acting silly, prancing around was all just an act. You know, it's just a front he puts up to distract his enemies. And so many times you just see, after his plan comes to fruition, you might see him like sailing away after having stolen his enemy's ship, and his enemies will be like, oh, what the hell just happened? How the hell did he just steal our ship? And then you see him like looking back at them like with that big kind of smirk on his face, like, you suckers, you know, I'm so much smarter than you. And which we saw glimpses of in this fifth movie, in the flashback sequence when he defeated Captain Salazar. I mean, that's the kind of Captain Sparrow we wanted. You know, he's just prancing around, doing silly stuff, saying silly things, like taunting the captains, like, hey, if you surrender now, you know, I'll let you live. And after being like in a completely kind of underdog situation, and then afterwards, when finally his plan is revealed, and he's like, no, he's basically won the battle, and Salazar just sailing into his death. He's just like Jack Sparrow just walking on the deck, you know, just smirking at him. It's like, yeah, who's laughing now? So, which is kind of, yeah, I mean, that's the kind of Jack Sparrow we want, you know, a smart, capable pirate, a legendary guy who, you know, we can respect. And it's like, yeah, he is actually a damn good, a capable character. But the kind of characters we've been getting from Jack Sparrow since the first movie is just, he's becoming descended into like cartoon characters, or maybe like one of those Charlie Chaplin characters in the old black and white movies, where he would just do completely ridiculous stuff and just survive through sheer dumb luck. You know, like he would fall off a building and then his pants would get caught on the clock hand of the watchtower, or maybe he would just someone's about to shoot at him and he sees a penny on the floor, so he bends down to pick up a penny and the bullet goes over his head. So he's just surviving through sheer comedic ridiculousness, just a series of fortunate events that ends up with him being on top and just surviving, which is, I mean, you don't really root for that kind of character. You want your characters to be like, smart, capable. He's like, he planned this stuff, I mean, although he's acting completely stupid and stuff, there was actually a rhyme and reason behind his actions. And then at the end, when his plan is revealed, you're like, oh damn, that's smart. Like in the first one, when he was fighting Barbossa in the cave, the Barbossa stabbed him through the heart, and he's smiling. He's like, oh, I've killed Jack Sparrow, and Jack Sparrow just like standing there mocking him. He's like, huh, I've stolen this coin too. Now I'm invincible. Yeah, it's strange, So it's like, man, now he's just like kind of just ridiculous. It's just not fun anymore, because there's no tension in any of the action scenes or any of the fight scenes, because that Jack Sparrow will just be fine. He'll just prance around, say stupid stuff, and then he'll just fall on the bad guy or something. When he's about to get killed, something will happen, like a boat will fall on the bad guy, or a cannon will fire and hit the bad guy, and he'll survive. So there's no tension at all. I was not on the edge of my seat through any of the action scene. I was just sitting there like, yeah, Jack Sparrow just he'll be fine in the end through his and it's not because he planned it or because he's clever or because he's smart. It's just the way this movie decides that he will have to survive no matter what. So I think in the future they would have to do one of two things: either kind of rein Jack Sparrow character in a bit to be more serious and have more variation, not just slapstick 100% of the time, all the time, or they would have to use him less as a kind of a side character, which he was anyways in the first movie. I think Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley was the main character, the main leading guy and the main leading lady as love interest, and he was like just popping in and out, just giving great moments after great moments, which I think works better for this kind of character. I mean, they're good in small doses, kind of like the Despicable Me, how the Minions kind of stole the show, but when you put them as the main character of the movie, it just doesn't quite work. Like for the Minion movies, lots of people are complaining like after a while the Minion just kind of wore off because it's so one note. That's the same with Jack Sparrow currently, because he's just so one note. He just does the exact same thing, the same joke, the same delivery every single time, which actually I thought they would actually have corrected in this movie, because I thought at the beginning they were setting him up as a washed up drunk, basically just doing, being Jack Sparrow that we know now, just doing completely silly stuff without actually any planning or any cunning to him. And then maybe through during the middle of the movie, he would start to realize the error of his ways, and it's like, back in the day, I was actually a great pirate. And then towards the end of the movie, he gets his mojo back, and then with his friends go on one last adventure to just, kick Salazar's ass. But of course, that was not the case, and he just survived through sheer dumb luck through the entirety of the movie and just come out on top with nothing changed, nothing learned. He's still drunk, doing stupid stuff just like before, and it kind of, I thought it was a real missed opportunity. And it wasn't a missed opportunity just for Jack Sparrow, but also for all the original cast that we've been seeing in all these films, like Captain Barbossa and the original crew of the Black Pearl that we've seen again and again throughout the entirety of the franchise. They could have all gotten back together, turned back the clock, and it's like, you know what, in our heyday, this Salazar guy is nothing, let's go and kick his ass. And just forget the slapstick comedy and the ridiculous prancing around for a moment, and just duel him one-on-one, and I'll kick his ass. Because Jack Sparrow's a legend, man. He's killed so many goddamn legendary pirates and undead enemies. Salazar is nothing, just another stupid cursed pirate. And also Barbossa could have, done the same thing. He's like, you know what? I've been bloody cursed before, this is nothing. Your stupid little ghost walk and ghost crew is nothing, I've seen this shit before. I've been it, and I've broken the curse way before you, I was cursed after you, and I broke the curse even before you, so you're nothing, son. Just beat him down. But instead, it's just like, just no character development, no tense moment, no kind of tense action scene at all. It was a spectacle, I must admit. I mean, some of the action scene must have taken a lot of budget to do, but there's just no weight to it. There's no stakes. That Jack Sparrow will be fine, the crew will be fine, they all come out in the end, and just so in the end it's just like you're just watching it without feeling anything emotional about it, just watching it for kind of Just a laugh here and a laugh there, and it could have been so much more. Okay, so if you're gonna do a sixth movie, Disney, please just dial back on the comedy level a bit. Take notes from your other movies. There's got to be a balance between comedy and tense moments and emotional moments. You don't always have to interrupt every single tense moments or emotional moments with just slapstick comedy or some stupid punchline. You don't really need to do that at all. It's okay, it's fine. Some tense moments should be tense. You don't need to kind of trying to lighten it up. Or some emotional moments, yeah, if some audience want to cry, then yeah, let them cry. You don't always have to interrupt them with some stupid punchline which just ruins the whole moment. So yeah, and also for the Jack Sparrow character, please just give him something cool to do, or just show us that he's cunning or he's smart. Show us of him coming up with some clever plan or smart moments. More like in the flashback for this film when he's defeating Salazar, so that we can see like, yeah, he's cool after all. He is really a legendary pirate, not just prancing around and just surviving through stupidness and just earn this reputation by accident, which kind of cheapens the character so much, man. Which is, since the first movie, that he was such a cool guy, but now he's a joke basically. like like when Will Turner's son met him for the first time. It's like, this is it. That's exactly my thought. It's like, this is Jack Sparrow. Is this it? Is this really him? And you should show through the film that no, that's really not all he is. He's so much more than that. Which obviously in this fifth film, he was basically just a walking, talking punchline, slapstick comedy joke, basically. Okay, well, having said all that, I'm still looking forward to Pirates number 6 with some hope, although not too much. Basically, to be honest, I expected the fifth one to be completely bad. Just like after having seen the fourth one, I thought this would be even worse, but actually it turned out to be one of the better ones of the pirate movies. But still, it just, as I said, it got me angry because I saw so much potential in the way the story was set up and the story arc, that they could have just focused more on the serious stuff, man. I mean, they didn't have to just focus on Jack Sparrow wearing eyeliner, dancing around, doing weird shit and saying stupid stuff. But anyway, that's just my thought. I'm sure many people would like it. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at any of the scores of the review. I think some people would like it, I'm sure, and some people would still think it kind of sucked, which would be a fair opinion. But anyway, yeah, that's probably my rant over. Just wanted to get my frustration out, and yeah, that's pretty much it, really.